Hi, I'm Eric Siegel with ericstrains.com. Today we're going to take a look at one of the beautiful 3-rail O-scale California Zephyr passenger cars from Atlas. So my good friend Brian at Legacy Station let me borrow one of these California Zephyr cars so that I could do a review on it. And Brian's a smart guy, and he knows me pretty well, and he knows that if he lets me borrow something this beautiful, that I'm probably not going to want to give it back, and that I'll end up purchasing not only this car, but many others. And that's probably going to be the case here. This is an absolutely gorgeous model, which is not a surprise considering that it comes from Atlas. I'm often asked who makes the best trains, and that's really a hard question to answer because the truth is that every train manufacturer has things that they do really well and things that they don't do so well. But when it comes to who I think makes the most beautifully detailed O-scale trains on the market, Atlas is usually at the top of that list because they really go the extra mile to make models that are not only incredibly detailed but also very accurate. So Atlas has put out quite a few of these California Zephyr cars. This car is part of the latest release. Its name is the Silver Palm, and it's a sleeper car. But they've also made observation cars, dome cars, dining cars, and even a few coach cars. Now, they've modeled both the classic California Zephyr as well as the more modern Amtrak California Zephyr. So you can go old school or modern depending on what you want to model. The Silver Palm here is obviously part of the classic California Zephyr series. Now, the real California Zephyr was a cooperative effort between 3 different railroads: the Western Pacific, the Chicago, Burlington, and Quincy, and the Denver, Rio Grande. And so for that reason, Atlas has modeled all 3 road names. This happens to be a Western Pacific car. But the nice thing is that you don't have to stick with just one road name if you get some of these cars. You can mix and match all you want. So I could get a Western Pacific, 2 Denver Rio Grandes, and 1 CB&Q, and it would be totally prototypical because on the real California Zephyr, since it was a cooperative effort, they mixed and matched road names on the cars all the time. So now I'm going to go over some quick stats and facts about these cars, and then we'll take a closer look at some of the great details. The bodies of these cars are plastic and they have tinted plastic windows. The trucks and couplers are die-cast metal, as you might expect. The interiors of the cars are decorated, however, they do not have any passenger figures inside. You'd have to add those yourself. The interiors are also lighted, and what's nice is that they have LED lighting, which even today is still fairly uncommon in O-scale passenger cars, so it's nice that Atlas has taken the extra step to include LED lighting. The overall length of these cars is just over 21 inches. This car weighs 2 pounds 12 ounces, and I would expect that the other cars in the series are probably in the same neighborhood, and the minimum curve needed to operate these cars is 0.72. Here's a look at one of the trucks. You can see they're very nicely done. As I said, they are die-cast metal, and they're also sprung. Here's a close-up of one of the corners of the car, and it looks really good. We've got some separately applied grab irons on either side of the door, the nice tinted windows, the Western Pacific road name here. I said the car bodies are made of plastic, but they've really got some nice cast-in details so that overall it just looks great. Here's a look at the California Zephyr plate as well as the name of this car, the Silver Palm. It's nice crisp lettering. It couldn't be done any better. Here's a look at the interior of the car. It's nicely decorated and you've got that great LED lighting. The only thing missing is the people. If you want people in the car, you'll have to add them yourself. One standout feature about the interior of these cars is that you've got these nice blinds on the window. You can see they've got individual slats on the blinds. They're really well done. Now, something that I should mention, because I know if I don't, somebody else will, is that when Atlas first started making these cars, they made sort of a mistake, and they had the blinds on the outside of the windows, and it didn't look right, and so they eventually had to put out a fix for it. Now, that really doesn't apply to this newest series of cars, but if you happen to pick up some of the older California Zephyr cars, they may or may not have the blinds on the inside. If they're on the outside, then you can contact Atlas and they have a kit that you can get that will fix the problem. It's not that big of a deal, but I just wanted to mention it because, like I said, if I don't, I know somebody else will. Here's a look at the roof. You can see the nice fluting in the plastic shell and some separately applied grab irons as well, and there's some on the other side too. The ends of the car look great. On this end, we've got a detailed working diaphragm. There's also lots of separately applied metal grab irons on either side. The door does not open, it's cast in, but it still looks very nice, and there's even a little number board right there. Here's a look at the other end of the car, which differs from the other side in that it has this cool vestibule area. As strange as it may sound, one of the most interesting features of these Zephyr cars is the underside. There's a lot of stuff going on down here, and it's a testament to the thought that Atlas put into these cars. So let's go ahead and take a closer look. Starting off with the trucks, there are 2 pickup rollers on this model, 1 per truck. That's pretty ordinary. What's not pretty ordinary is that on each truck you've got the presence of the Atlas adjust-a-coupler system. And that is the coupler attached to this long bar which has these screws in it and a series of notches. And what that allows you to do is to adjust the length of the coupler and thereby adjust the distance between the cars and the train. Now, why would you want to change the length of the coupler? Well, this is something that's particular to 3-rail O-scale. In the world of 3-rail O-scale, we typically run our trains on tighter curves than 2-rail O-scale or HO or any other scale. And so for that reason, oftentimes on the models, the couplers will come out a bit further than they should, and that creates a bigger gap between the cars and allows those cars to get around tighter curves without binding up or derailing. But the result is that it creates this really unrealistic big gap between the cars, and anybody who's been in 3-rail O-scale for a while knows exactly what I'm talking about. So to combat that, Atlas has developed the adjust-a-coupler system. And the way it works is that if you're running on wider curves like 081 or 099, you can pull the coupler in a bit and decrease that distance between the cars and get a much more prototypical look to your train. But if you're running the train on tighter curves like 072 or maybe 063, you can pull the coupler out and increase that distance and still be able to run those cars on those tighter curves. So it's a really innovative system. Lionel has dabbled in this with their self-adjusting coupler on their new corrugated auto carriers, but really Atlas is the only one in the O-scale market, at least, that's doing it on a lot of their products. So let me go ahead and show you how it works. The adjust-a-coupler system is very simple. You've got the coupler right here, and that's connected to this bar, and this bar runs underneath everything, and it's really the heart of the system. It's got a series of notches in it, and those allow you to adjust the length of the coupler, and it's all held in place by 2 screws, one here and one here. So if we remove these 2 screws, we can then adjust the coupler. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, the screws are out, and now, as you can see, I can move this bar back and forth and adjust the length of the coupler. Pretty cool. So if I want to run this on tighter curves, I can pull it out a little bit and increase that distance between the cars. Or if I'm going to run it on tighter curves, I can pull it in and get a more realistic distance between those cars. And that's what it's all about. So you can play around with this as much as you want. There really aren't any rules. It's just a matter of playing around with it and finding what works for you. But for now, I'm going to put it back to where I had it, which is right there. So I'll go ahead and put the screws back in, and then it'll be secured in place. And that's really all there is to it. The other nice thing about the adjust-a-coupler system is that it allows you to remove the entire coupler assembly very easily if you want to. So let's say, for example, that I want to remove this coupler and install a KD scale coupler instead. Well, all I have to do is take out these screws, and with the screws out, I can now remove the entire assembly like that, and then the mounting pad for the KD scale coupler is right there. Pretty cool. Another really nice feature on the underside of these cars is right here. There are 2 switches, and both of these switches concern the onboard lighting. This switch right here is pretty self-explanatory, on and off. So in the off position, the lights are off, and in the on position, the lights are on. That's pretty ordinary, and you find these on a lot of passenger cars. This switch, however, on this side is labeled rail, and on this side is labeled battery. So in the rail position, the lights are being powered from the rails, and in the battery position, the lights are now being powered by an onboard battery, and that's pretty cool. The onboard batteries are contained in this compartment, which is also on the underside of the car. And if we remove this screw, and then remove this panel, there we have two AAA batteries, which by the way are not supplied with the car when you buy it. You have to buy your own. Now, if this was a traditional passenger car with incandescent lighting, this would never work because these batteries would burn out very fast. This works because these cars have LED lighting. And if you've ever had an LED flashlight that's powered by a couple AAA batteries, you know that they last for a long, long time, and so will these. Now, I have not tested the limits of these batteries on these cars, but I'm sure that they will last for hours and hours without giving you any trouble. Now, you may wonder, why would they do this? Why would you want to run the car off batteries instead of off the rails? Well, as many of you probably know, when you run passenger cars on your layout, sometimes the cars will go over a switch or a series of switches, or maybe some dirty track, and the lights will flicker. This battery compartment eliminates that problem because since you're powering the car from the batteries and not the rails, there's no chance for flicker at all. So just to illustrate how this works, I've got the car turned so that you can see the windows, and if I flip the switch from rail to battery, the lights come on. In addition to those features that I just showed you, we've also got a very nicely detailed underside. You can see there's all sorts of add-on parts, including some add-on metal parts right here. So the underside of these things is just awesome. Okay, so the last thing I'm going to do before I show this car in action is BFIMO, best feature in my opinion. Well, in my opinion, the best feature of these California Zephyr cars is the LED lighting. LED lighting is much more efficient than incandescent lighting, and slowly but surely all of the manufacturers are converting their cars to LED lighting, and it's nice to see that Atlas has taken the lead on that. So for me, the best feature is the LED lighting. Okay, now since I only have one California Zephyr car right now, I'm not going to spend 5 or 6 minutes running it around the layout for you because that would look kind of silly. So what I am going to do is just run it past the camera once or twice just so you can see it in action. And then later on down the road, when I get more of these cars, I'll do another video and show the whole train in action. Now, the engines that are going to be pulling the one car today, this is a Lionel Rio Grande F3 ABBA set that I got a couple years ago. I actually haven't done a review on this set yet. I probably should do that at some point in the near future. But anyway, let's go ahead and start it up. So that about wraps it up for this review. This is a gorgeous model, and like I said, I most likely will not be giving this thing back to Brian. In all likelihood, I will buy it, and many others as well. So he knew exactly what he was doing when he let me borrow one of these cars. Now, if you want some of these cars for yourself, the retail price per car is about $150, which may seem like a lot, but it's really not when you consider what you're getting. This is a very highly detailed, well-built model, And there's no reason that with proper care, you shouldn't be passing these things down to your grandkids. Now, Legacy Station has the most recent series in stock, and if you want some of the older cars, they can probably find some of those for you as well. So give them a call at 770-339-7780 or find them on the web at www.legacystation.com. Anyway, I'm Eric Siegel, and I'll see you next time. To discuss this model or any other O-Gauge trains and to meet other O-Gauge modelers, check out the O-Gauge Railroading Magazine online forum at ogrforum.ogaugerr.com.